Indeed, a very warm welcome to This is the Business Hour podcast. My name is Mbogoh, and today we'll be talking to you about savings and what are some of the options that are out there to make your savings more easy. And just to speak to us about this savings and all the things that are currently going to help you save and how we're using technology to help you save, I will be speaking to George Ndirangu, who is the CEO and founder of Jipay, which is a micro saving mobilizer. At least that's what they say about themselves. But as usual, let's start this podcast with our quote of the day. And of course, based on our conversation that we're going to have today, our quote says, "Do not save what is left after spending, but spend what is left after saving." I think that's a good place to start it, George. Welcome to the program.
Thank you, Jimmy.
All right, I think one of the things that we really want to understand is who is Jipay? What is Jipay?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Well, Jipay, we're a FinTech. FinTech is finance and technology. So using technology to deliver us financial solutions. So that will be a FinTech. And what FinTechs are all about is about inclusion of financial services. You see, to be able to democratize finance, you need to bring on board the entire mass market. And that is one of our objectives.
Yeah.
So the use of finance and inclusion is the utilization and access of financial services.
And I'm sure, George, when you look back at the financial sector, for instance, a lot of developments have happened over the last 10, 15, 20 years.
Correct.
So maybe you can just talk us through what brought about this idea of Jipay.
All right. So in August of 2019, maybe before August, 4 months before that, sometime in April, I had a few friends of us and we were brainstorming. At the time, the betting craze had gone all over the country, and I remember having a conversation. I'm a financial services provider, an advisor, and I had a conversation with my brother, who's a smart guy, an intelligent guy, but he was into betting big time. And so when we sat different occasions, he told me that betting is a form of investment.
Yeah. And
that made me very, very sad. Because, if you did any math in school, probability. Betting it's about probability. And the house always wins. Okay. So I wondered, what can be done? And that was a question we were discussing around the table with some friends of mine in a place that we used to meet regularly. And what we figured, how the conversation ended, we need something that's going to take on betting in its ecosystem. So, in that mobile phone, what can we do to turn it around on its head? So for 4 months or so, there was nothing. And then on that particular night, I woke up and God had given me an idea. And, it was in the dead of the night. I was really excited. And what the idea was, what if we capture saving at the point of spending?
Okay.
Sounds very, very simple. And I'm amazed that, I never thought of that before because it's really, really simple. So in Kenya, we have this culture. Every place has this culture. Out there, people have a jogging culture. That's why the major world marathons are run in certain, cities, Boston and so on. But in Kenya, despite us having marathoners, we don't have a culture of running.
Yeah.
However, we have a culture that is known, I guess, by us and those who care to observe. We have a spending culture.
Yes.
Culture ya sherehe. So we are plugging into that culture of spending and catching savings at that point. So the idea was from God, Jimmy.
Actually, it's a good thing that you've talked about our spending culture because there has always been this conversation. And when you speak to any pensioners and any of those guys who are heading any pension fund, they will tell you we do not have a saving culture.
Absolutely.
And so when you look back in terms of the solutions that Jipay is providing, how then do we encourage people to start saving?
It's very simple. So what we're doing, what Jipay does, we integrate with banks and mobile money wallets.
Mm-hmm.
So what I mean, because we do spend a lot using mobile money wallets, and so at the point of spending, 10% of what I've spent is saved. So what I mean, you've gone to a supermarket, you spend 1,000 shillings, so 1,000 goes to the supermarket, but the system picks 10% of what you've spent, so 100 shillings, and that is pushed to a wallet, which becomes your saving.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the reason you'll be saving is to meet a certain need, maybe planning for a holiday in December, or raise capital for business, and so on and so forth. So that particular spend will be 1,100.
Mm-hmm.
So you opt in once, and after that you just carry on. So it will be accumulating money in the background as you spend.
The argument that most Kenyans have had is that the cost of living has gone up.
Right.
I barely have enough to spend.
Mm-hmm.
So when you tell me to come and start saving, yet I'm struggling financially, how important is saving?
That's a very good observation. And what is very interesting, Jimmy, is that there is no money, but we spend.
Okay.
Everybody in this country is spending. We may have reduced what we spend on, or the places that we spend on, but we are spending. So the mere fact that we feel the economic challenges have risen so much, it makes it even more important to save now. It's more important to save now than ever before. And I'll tell you why. Because if I'm not using my savings, then I'm using debt. So it's either be Okash or Fuliza or something. And those cost so much. One of those charges about 300% interest.
Mm-hmm.
So one will still spend, but either you spend your savings or you spend debt. But spending, you will.
The question again comes in, how much should I save?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Let's say I make X amount of money. How much of this should go into savings? And how much of this should go into my recurrent expenditure?
Mm-hmm. Well, allow me to quote another of a book that I really love, Think and Grow Rich, Napoleon Hill. It's an old book, published in the 60s, but it's been republished. It's available, and I recommend listeners out there to take time and read it. But what he recommends is 10%. And not just Napoleon Hill, even Peter Clanson in his book, The Richest Man in Babylon, has the same recommendation. So it's about, what should you save?
Mm-hmm.
You should save in the very least 10%. And you should save, as the quote said, fast. First you pay yourself, then you pay others.
Okay.
That is the order, 10% in the very least.
All right, because again, and I think this is something that from one of the quotes that I've read before, is you're normally told to save with an end goal in mind.
Absolutely.
Do you think that is a problem for Kenyans? Do you think a lot of us are just living a day at a time?
We do live that way, and it's not in a bad way, because the circumstances have been harsh. But this is the thing. It is best to have target savings for anything. Now, if you think about you want to replace a phone, for example, and the mobile phone now is not just a luxury gadget. I mean, it is, for me, it's my office. I send emails, so I'll spend money on my phone. However, it is something that I plan. So it's a planned expenditure. So it is best to save towards a target. And then one stays motivated, because you can't just save aimlessly. So I'm talking about saving to accumulate money for school fees. Especially the season we are in now, and schools just close for 2 weeks, and then the kids are back. So since we know it will happen in 3 months' time, so start doing something about it today.
Okay.
So target savings is what works best.
For instance, what happens after I have attained my target? What happens after I've bought that phone? What happens after my son or my daughter has cleared school?
Right.
Do I continue saving, or it's now time for me to enjoy, and like you said, time for sherehe?
And sherehe is very, very important. It's part and parcel of life, because it's rewarding your hard work. So it's very important. It has a place. In any case, even in those situations where you're taking time off That's when creativity is sparked.
Yeah.
That will bring and solve the problems that you encounter at your place of work. So I'll say it's psychological. If you save, or when you save and purchase, for example, that phone, then you'll be motivated that anything else is possible. If I've saved 20,000 over a period of time and I bought myself a really nice phone, then I'll be motivated to save 40K, to maybe change a piece of furniture in my house, or put money into a small business that I want to get into. So it's psychological. As soon as a goal is achieved, normally, it is human nature. We raise the bar. That is why you go from primary school to high school and to so on and so forth. However, when it doesn't work, then it shakes one's confidence. So it's great to save. When you get to the target, create another one, a bigger one.
All right, so George, I think let's try and switch gears and see from an entrepreneurial perspective.
Correct.
How do I then start a culture of saving? Yes, I have this expenditure. I'm trying to set up a certain business. At what point do I start saving? At what point do I start saving enough to reinvest or to expand the business?
Jimmy, we really struggled. I've been in business for quite a number of years, and I see what we do. Myself, I've been guilty of that. So again, we spend all the money on other people, employees, rent, stock, so on and so forth. But we do not pay ourselves. So it is the best practice, even for an entrepreneur, is to pay yourself 5% of turnover. So my payment or earning, if I may call it so, is part of the cost of the business. And if it can't pay me that 5%, then it's not a sensible business. There's something I'm doing wrong, or maybe I should let it die and look for something else that is going to be. So for an entrepreneur, when you have that discipline of paying yourself, then it's very easy also to dedicate a certain amount of money that should be going towards growing the business, something to plow back in. But for the love of God, pay yourself. In the very least, 5% of the sales. Minimum. Because you're taking the biggest risk.
And so basically you have to be one of the biggest beneficiaries.
You have to be. And if it doesn't work, let that business die. It is okay. Get another one. Or reevaluate what you're not doing right.
All right, and speaking of letting businesses die, let's talk about you, George, for a minute. Before Jipay came into play, how many companies had you started before, or was this the first one? Or what happened in that journey?
Well, interesting. I come from several generations of business people. And I remember when I was in class 4, standard 4 as a child. So I was raised Catholic, so we used to go to Holy Family. So there was a guy there who used to sell religious amulets and trinkets. So I'd get them and sell them to my classmates. And I remember one time the bag fell on the way to school and my father saw it, so I got a sound beating and the business came to an end. So that was really my first business. Class 4 is about 11 years, I think. But I've had Musafiri taxis. I bought an old Renault. That didn't go very well. I've had dry cleaner. Again, it didn't go very well. I've owned Boda. But what I noticed, or what was very clear, is that I have a certain purpose. And my purpose, my calling, is to enable people to get financial freedom. So whenever I've invested in anything outside that, I've lost money without fail. So which other business did I have prior to Jipay? Ashanti Pension. Ashanti Pension is what has fed us, what we've been relying on, because Jipay is pre-revenue. We have not made a single coin, even as I sit here, though we are going to launch a product next month. But Ashanti Pension is what has kept us. Ashanti Pension is boutique consultancy. So where we help our clients get pension solutions.
And like you rightfully said, Jipay is now about 3 years old.
Actually, no. Ashanti, you mean?
Ashanti?
Oh, I see. Well,
No,
okay,
I
see what
because
you
you told
mean,
me
yeah.
when you started Jipay, that was
2019,
about
correct.
2019.
Right. The
It's
journey has
about
been
3 years,
yes.
3 years old now, and you're saying it's yet to begin paying for itself.
Absolutely.
So what kind of challenges would you say you faced over the last 3 years?
Wow. One thing that is very, very difficult in this market, the place we live in, is access to capital. So you had a brilliant idea.
Mm-hmm.
We registered and got the patent for what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
I told you I've been to this building, spent about 5 months here fundraising, but it didn't work out. So the challenge of access to capital. So that is an issue. Because to be able to roll out, you require money.
Yeah.
So that is one, and one of the big. And unfortunately, Kenyans have the ones who have capital.
Yeah.
Really focus on the real estate market.
They're very risk averse.
Absolutely, and in a very odd way, because if you look at Israel, for example, Israel is a startup country. They have probably the highest number of startups per capita, and yet they hold the highest number of patents as well. A lot of technology is, whatever technology is in use, you'll find an Israeli firm there. So raising capital, partnering with people, you have to be very, very careful, because business is like a marriage. If you pick a wrong partner, then things will go south. And then there's a function of time, because you see what Jipay does, our customers are banks.
Yeah.
So you can imagine, before a bank like Equity makes a decision, it takes like 1.5 years or something. So because we're not retail, we're not selling to the public, you're not opening a shop and people are coming in. So the nature of sales, we're in B2C, what is called the B2B, business to business. So you have to factor in that as well, and that has been a challenge. But by the grace of God, we've closed a couple of corporate accounts.
Okay.
And we're soon going to start seeing things coming through.
All right, and again, it's a good thing that you mentioned about some of the struggles, and especially with access to capital.
Absolutely.
When you look back at from the beginning of from the inception of Jipay, what would you say was the biggest consumer of your capital?
That's an interesting one. So this is what happened. We had an office someplace in Westlands.
Yeah.
And so you were a startup. Even for an investor, they need to see and believe in this thing. So we had an office.
Yeah.
So operation expenditure, OPEX, I'm talking about, because there's no salary, nobody's earning a salary, I'm not earned myself. So it's operating expenditure, just keeping the company alive. Yeah. Secondly, the code, because you're a FinTech, so it costs money to write that code. Hosting the APIs in this server and that other server. So operational expense. And for example, now, we need a check, and that person needs to be paid a salary. And you have to pay them whether you're making money or not, and they're a key person, because again, it's a technology company.
Yeah.
So operational expenditure, if I may just, because the investment in capital is very limited because of the nature of our work.
There's also the issue of how much money, let's say, for instance, did it cost you? And for an entrepreneur who wants to get into this space,
right,
what lessons maybe do they need to come in, knowing that once you come to this space, these are some of the challenges, this is what are some of the barriers you're likely to face?
All right, looking back, if we started this journey once again, the first thing I'll do is to incorporate our company in the United States.
Okay.
Why I say that is because when a company is incorporated in a jurisdiction like that one, then you have easier access to capital because of the laws, of that country. And you'll see it in Nigeria. Many of those fintechs that are big and have attracted a lot of capital, they're actually incorporated in the US. Nobody ever told us that. It's just a realization that came to pass. So beginning with the incorporate in an international jurisdiction. Because then whoever is bringing the money, they will feel safe because of the protection that they get. So what happens if the companies want them? If you're an investor, you're not able to, as an investor in the business, then the people who are running the business are held accountable, and you have recourse at law. For example, the Security Exchange Commission. There's a particular person, a FinTech in Nigeria, who's been summoned by SEC because of the practices that they're doing in that company in Nigeria. So these are the kind of things, I think that would have been a big game changer if I knew that then. But anyway, for you who's looking to go out into this thing, FinTech, that's a place to begin.
Because again, like we've had this conversation about, especially players in the financial sector saying that fintechs are the way to go. Fintechs are the future. But when you're looking at your experience over the last 3 years, how far are we from this future, or how close are we from this future?
Oh, by the grace of God, Jimmy, we are 2 steps to that future. Where we just have 2 steps to take, and it all makes sense. So one thing, because of the novelty of our idea, we believed in it, and even investors who we pitched, they believed in it. The challenge had been to put down their money into it, But one of the biggest hindrances was, who is your customer? So now we have a customer that you can say, oh, look, this is our customer. So FinTech is the future, and I'll tell you why. After COVID happened, most companies were forced to leap 5-10 years into their future. The plans that they had laid out. We were talking about this earlier. Mortar and brick is not now the way to go for finance. Even banks. Many banks have digital accounts. They have that they are pushing, and encouraging people to transact digitally.
And especially when you look at Kenya, for instance, you'll find there's the normal banking, and then there's the mobile banking that is being offered as an alternative.
Absolutely. So FinTech is the future, and mostly because we have infrastructure in place. Safaricom is a rail, if you may think of it as a rail. So there's a rail, and the rail we have is M-Pesa. So FinTechs build on top of that M-Pesa and offer solutions to the general population. So M-Pesa is a big deal. And not just M-Pesa, but the mobile money wallets that we have in this country. And recently, why FinTech makes a lot of sense, because of a campaign that was run by the government for mobile money interoperability. What I mean is that I can use from my T-Cash, I'm able to pay an M-Pesa till number, or from Airtel, the same thing. So that is a big deal, because you see that was a barrier. Why would I keep a T-Cash line or from Telcom if I'm not able? It's not serving me. It's not giving me the convenience that I'm seeking. So what I'm saying, we have infrastructure in place, and very good infrastructure. And on that rail, FinTechs are built upon it. So it's a great time.
All right, and I'm sure by now you've gotten a couple of new customers who are coming on board. What would you say? What demographic comprises of your largest percentage of customers?
Informal workers.
Okay.
Informal workers are 15 million strong in this country, according to Kenya National Bureau of Statistics report. And informal workers, if you think about it, are the ones who struggle to save. Because, for example, your mechanic, if you ask him to project what he'll earn on Saturday, he can't tell you. He doesn't know. Even on that very Saturday, he'll still be able to give you an idea. So therefore, it becomes very difficult for them to save. However, our solution is a standing order, if you think about it, for variable income. So long as whatever they've made on that particular day, because they will spend for sure. And you can only spend when you have something to spend. So when they are spending it, then they'll be saving it. So we're targeting the 15 million informal workers in general. And then specifically, we want to start off with the youth.
Yeah.
And because they make a big, huge demographic, and they also have aspirations. They need to build money, put together money for business, money for going to school, which are some of the reasons actually they borrow.
Yeah.
You've seen these reports from FSD, for school fees, for business, So we help them build this capital without engaging in debt.
All right, and as we almost wind up, George, maybe one of the things that we would want to understand is, how do I get on board? How do I get a Jipay account, so to speak? And also, when you're looking at some of the customers, what do you feel has been their biggest motivation to come on board?
All right. So our customers are these mobile money wallets. So we don't have a Jipay app to speak of.
Okay.
But if one wants to save, I'd recommend that you get a T-Cash, a telecom line, register for T-Cash.
Yeah.
Because when you're spending from T-Cash, now you're able to pay M-Pesa. Till numbers in a supermarket, you're able to send money. So make that the primary transaction account.
Okay.
And as you spend out of your T-Cash, 10% of what you'll be spending, you'll be able to save. And you're saving, for a holiday in December, you're saving for business capital. So that is how it works. So we've integrated with Telkom Kenya.
Kenyans are very suspicious in nature. And again, so the question comes in on, how then do I get to track my savings?
Absolutely, good question. So what happens is, once you opt in, because it's an opt-in service, *160# you opt in. Once you've opted in, then you start saving immediately. Now, the thing about this, whatever you're saving, Jimmy, you're able to access the money. So you can move it to your T-Cash and spend it on the spot. So you'll have, anytime you spend, and meaning a saving functionality has been triggered. So you'll have two balances, Jimmy, that you'll be seeing. You'll see the available balance and the actual balance. The available balance being the money that you can, draw out. So it's something that will be happening real time.
All right, and lastly, for an entrepreneur, I want to get into the FinTech space. How do you make money out of it? When people are saving, how much money are you making out of it?
Good question. Now, one thing central bank will not allow is to charge customers to save, because then it becomes a disincentive.
Yes.
Right? But because these people are accumulating these savings in a bank somewhere, because again, for example, Telkom, there's a bank behind where this money is being kept. So that particular bank, because we're mobilizing deposits for them, at some point you'll have people holding 20 billion or 30 billion. So their bank is the one that pays the FinTech.
Okay.
Because look, we say, this is what we bring to you, or this is what we brought to you. So then they pay us. So that's how money is made. That's one of the ways the money is made. Obviously, you can also go after the wallet and sell, entice people with value-added products. Like what I'm talking about, maybe you can do a partnership with a holiday company like Bonfire, for example. So if people book their holiday out and pay out of their T-Cash wallet, then Bonfire pays the FinTech.
Okay.
So you just have to get creative about it. But there are multiple ways of making money without necessarily charging the subscriber.
All right, and I think that's a good place to end it. Thank you so much, George, for coming through. And we'll be sure to invite you again and again to be able to shed some light as you go along. In terms of any new lessons, we will be looking forward, and especially when we see now that Jipay has become the Safaricom of FinTechs by then, or the M-Pesa of FinTechs by then. But thank you so much for sharing your thoughts with us and for spending time with us. And remember, that is how we wrap up this episode of the Business Hour podcast. My name is Mbogoh, and as we always say, every hour is business hour.